If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Adeptus Custodes Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought in Solar Spearhead. This video is the next in our Y series. Today we have why is the Venerable Dreadnought used so much in the Solar Spearhead. Almost every single Solar Spearhead list we see has the max number of Venerable Dreadnoughts in the list. It could be that they are much easier to find since they are the only Codex Dreadnought we have, while the other three Dreadnoughts are Forge World Custodes Dreadnoughts. I still think there is something else that drives the 10,000 to take these in their Solar Spearhead list. Let's start with the datasheet. The Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought has a movement of 6, toughness of 9, 2-up save with a 5+ invulnerable, 10 wounds, 6+ leadership, and an OC of 3. For the ranged weapons, we have a Combi Bolter, Rapid Fire 2, 24-inch range, 2 attacks hitting on a 2+, Strength 4, AP 0, Damage 1. Then we have the Assault Cannon, hitting on a 2+, Strength 7, AP 1, Damage 1, with devastating wounds. The final weapon is the Multi-Melta, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 9, AP 4, Damage D6, with Melta 2. The melee weapon is the Contemptor Combat Weapon, hitting on a 2+, Strength 12, AP 2, Damage 3. For gear options, for the ranged weapons, we always have the Combi Bolter, then we can choose between the Assault Cannon and the Multi-Melta. 9 times out of 10, we take the Multi-Melta, and we always have the melee combat weapon. The Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought abilities, Deadly Demise, Martial Kata, so we can have sustained hits 1 or lethal hits in the fight phase, Unyielding Agent, first time this model is destroyed, remove it from play without resolving its Deadly Demise ability. Then at the end of the phase, roll 1d6, on a 2+, set this model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and not within engagement range of enemy units with d6 wounds remaining. Some highlights for the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. The Contemptor Dreadnought has the same melee attack profile as the Telamon with 1 fist weapon equipped, 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 12, AP 2, Damage 3. Not as many attacks as the Galatus or the damage potential of the Aculus. What it does have is very good general purpose melee. Charging into anything but a horde unit will do some lasting damage. We also have the Multi-Melta. It has some of the high single target damage of all of our Dreadnoughts. It will add some extra punch into those higher wound targets. Everything isn't perfect though. The Contemptor Dreadnought does have its weaknesses. Toughness 9 means they can be wounded quite reliably with anti-tank weapons. 10 wounds is not a lot when being hit by a bunch of d6 weapons. 2+ save with a 5+ invulnerable is tied with the Aculus for the worst defensive profile of all 4 of our Custodes Dreadnoughts. The Multi-Melter is at Strength 9 and only 5 melee attacks. We can have a few poor rolls and this thing ends up doing nothing that turn. The ability Unyielding Agent, stand back up on a 2+, is around an 84% success rate. The great thing about these 3 Contemptor Dreadnoughts, the Venerable, the Aculus, and the Galatus, they do not have a degraded profile. At full strength or 1 wound remaining, this Dreadnought is still hitting on a 2+. D6 wounds remaining can restore over half of the Dreadnought's health. Most important, this is at the end of the phase. That means it cannot be killed twice in the same phase. This is the most general purpose Dreadnought the Custodes have, and this is also the reason I like this Dreadnought. It has many different options. Punch out a tank? It's possible. Punch out some infantry? Why not? Move, block, or grab an early objective? Go ahead. Unyielding Agents gives us more flexibility when move blocking or grabbing early objectives, and the potential to fight on death twice per game. We can use it the first time this thing dies, and the second time the Contemptor dies. The second cheapest Dreadnought at 170 points. Those are the big reasons from the datasheet we see the Venerable Dreadnought in every Solar Spearhead list. Strong melee using Custodes Karate, some shooting potential, not easy to kill, and when it goes down, it stands back up on a 2+ with d6 wounds remaining. We could have a possible 16 wounds per Dreadnought. What about the Solar Spearhead Detachment? What does it add to the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought, aka the Zombie Dreadnought? Now to take a look at the Solar Spearhead Detachment and what it can do to power up the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. We'll start with the Army rule, then the Detachment rule. The Army rule is Martial Kata. As long as the unit has the Martial Kata ability, in the fight phase, when the unit is selected to fight, it can either have sustained hits 1 or lethal hits. Of course, the Venerable Dreadnought knows Custodes Karate. It makes more sense than the Land Raider knowing the ancient art of Custodes Karate. Strength 12 melee weapons will have us selecting sustain hits 1 most of the time. Then we have the Solar Spearhead Detachment rule, which comes into 2 different parts, Auric Armor and Moratory Agents. And Auric Armor itself also is broken down to a few different parts. While an Adeptus Custodes vehicle is at starting strength, add 2 to the objective control of that unit. We also have while Adeptus Custodes vehicle is below starting strength, that unit can reroll hit rolls of 1. If that vehicle is below half strength, the vehicle can reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. The next part is Moratory Agents. Add 2 to the movement of models of Add 2 to the move characteristic of models in Adeptus Custodes Walker units from your army and add 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for such units. In the Muster Army step, you can select up to 2 Adeptus Custodes Walker models from your army. Those selected units gain the character keyword. That means the selected models can be given enhancements, and one of them can become our warlord. The detachment rule adds a lot of fun, powerful buffs to the Venerable Contemptor. Reroll hits and wounds of 1 if below certain wound thresholds. An extra 2C at full strength for a total 5 OC, great for stealing and contesting objectives. Then we have the best part, the speed. No longer a slow 6-inch movement walker unit. The +2 movement brings the Venerable Contemptor up to a base 8-inch move. An average 3-inch advance +1 will give the Contemptor an average 12-inch movement when advancing. Then if we use the Advance and Charge stratagem, Relentless Persecution, for an average 7-inch charge +1 from the detachment rule, the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought will have an average 20-inch advance and charge range. Next up is some of the stronger enhancements we can put on a Venerable Dreadnought. The first one is Adamantine Talisman. Improve the attacks, strength, and damage of the melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 1. 2 of the enhancements in this detachment are good, the other 2 not so much. Adamantine Talisman is one of the good ones. When I see competitive list, or even build a list for battle reports, the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought rarely has this enhancement. Either way, this enhancement will give the Venerable Dreadnought 6 attacks, strength 13, damage 4. Not bad, but there are better options to put this on. The other 3 Dreadnoughts or even the Blade Champion would probably make a better choice. Next up is Augury Uplink. This will give the bearer a 5+ Feel No Pain. The best enhancement in the detachment for survivability, another enhancement that usually goes on a Telemon heavy Dreadnought. Still, one of our Zombie Dreadnoughts with a 5+ Feel No Pain would not be an easy Dreadnought to put down for good. More of an option in a 1000 point game in my opinion. There is another enhancement that I will put on these Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts if I do have the points, and that is Honor the Fallen. This will give a 6-inch aura of reroll hits of 1 for mounted and infantry units. On to the 6 Solar Spearhead. Some of them can really help buff up the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. Our first one is Emperor's Vengeance for 1 CP. This will give the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought a 3+ Fight on Death. A 3+ Fight on Death for a Walker Dreadnought is a great stratagem. The Dreadnoughts are already imposing in the fight phase, now they can fight on death on a 3+. Yes, that does mean we can use Emperor's Vengeance both times the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought is destroyed. Double Fight on Death is a good reason to take these in a list. The next stratagem is Flawless Construction for 1 CP. This can be used in the shooting phase or the fight phase. This will give the incoming attack -1 to the wound roll if the strength of that incoming attack is higher than the toughness of our Venerable Dreadnought, which is 9. The best defensive stratagem in the detachment, -1 to the wound roll of incoming attacks, is a great defensive buff. The incoming attack needs to be at a higher strength than the target's toughness. The Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought has a toughness of 9. Flawless Construction will help protect the Dreadnought from those higher strength anti-tank attacks. Next up is Punishment Inescapable for 1 CP. This will give the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought ignores cover or ignore ballistic skill or any other hit roll modifiers. For the most part, we are not going to use this stratagem on the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. Another stratagem we will not be using that much is Wrathful Advance for 1 CP. This gives the Dreadnought a D3+3 pylon move. The most situational stratagem in the detachment, a stratagem I can't even remember the last time I used it on a Venerable Dreadnought. We can use this to get an extra few inches on a pylon to tag another enemy unit on an objective. The D3+3 is what makes this unreliable. Pylon a flat 6 inches would have been much better. The next stratagem is one of the best stratagems in the detachment. This will give our vehicles advance and shoot, and if it is a walker unit / dreadnought, the unit can advance, shoot, and charge. Being able to sling this dreadnought an average 20-inch advance and charge into the enemy is huge. It can be a great tool for slowing down the enemy army, especially if they have to kill it twice. It may not have quite the same melee threat as the Galatus, Achilles, or even the Double Fist Telamon. It does have a multi-melta and combi bolter to shoot along with the strength 12 melee attacks. Unstoppable for 1 CP, we can use this in the movement phase or the charge phase. This will allow the Venerable Dreadnought to move through terrain features. Unstoppable is a really fun stratagem to send our Dreadnought or other vehicles smashing through terrain. This can be used in the movement or the charge phase. The charge phase means we can actually wait until after we've moved the vehicle unit before we use this stratagem. Unstoppable was able to move through vehicles and enemy models too. It only allows movement through terrain features now. Still a great and fun stratagem, it keeps the opponent on their toes. A bunch of Venerable Dreadnoughts is no fun for the opponent. We can come crashing through the terrain. If the opponent does not push forward to shoot or charge them, they can stand back up and fight on death on a 3+ in melee. Even behind line of sight cover, these are fantastic distraction units. Those are all the rules from the Solar Spearhead Detachment that really help power up the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. These rules make the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought an even better general purpose Dreadnought. I also rank this the #1 Dreadnought in the Solar Spearhead Detachment. For the most part, they are easier and cheaper to find. You can even find these secondhand a lot easier than secondhand Forge World Dreadnoughts. All these reasons, and probably a few more, is why we see the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought in nearly every Solar Spearhead list. And usually it's not one, it's 3 of these in every list. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. Those were the reason we see the Codex Dreadnought in the detachment that seems to be tailor-made for the Adeptus Custodes Forge World units. The Venerable Land Raider has dropped in points. Include an Imperial Knight ally, we could make a strong non-Forge World unit Solar Spearhead list. 2 Land Raiders, 3 Venerable Dreadnoughts, a large Knight with some other Codex units thrown in. I'm pretty sure we can make a Codex Solar Spearhead list. Have you been using the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought in any of our other detachments? I tried using the Dreadnoughts before Solar Spearhead was released. The 6-inch movement made them near unusable for me. Subscribe for battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Channel members gain early access to videos and access to the channel Discord. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.